Welcome. My name is Daniel. I am the creative heart in the fight and your host for today. Before we jump into the interview with the beast, I want you to do two things. One, I want you to like this video, share our video, and like our social media platforms, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, but also subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get future access to our content that you are going to love. Two, we just dropped the 619 versus Venom Black fight t-shirt. If you've been around Street Beefs atmosphere, you know that this is the most anticipated fight in light heavyweight boxing history. Both undefeated champions. And so you have the West Coast champion in 619 versus the East Coast champion in Venom Black coming together later this year to fight, to see who reigns supreme, who is the best light heavyweight boxer in Street Beefs. And so we created a shirt, a Heart in the Fight shirt, where you get to celebrate this moment, but also support the fighters. So go to our Teespring store where you can cop that shirt and make sure you post it on social media so that you can show them that you are riding with them for this fight. Now, we have this interview, y'all. It's going to be a good one. And, profiles are a little different from a lot of the live shows that we do. So in these profiles, the intentions is to learn from these fighters. Not only learn from the fighters, but learn who they are. Oftentimes we watch fighters, we don't know anything about them, but we support them in their journey on whether they become pro or just journey through fighting throughout Street Beefs. But here's an opportunity to actually learn about who they are. How did they get involved in fighting? What is their origin story? But also to become a bigger fan of these fighters so you can support them along their journey. So we will have a profile with the beast. So thank you for joining in. Hope you enjoy the show. I want to welcome Beast to the show. Thank you for joining the show, brother. How you doing?
Everything's copacetic at the moment.
Awesome, man. Well, I know you are, I think a lot of folks have a lot of interest in you. Right, because when you show up to the yard, people know who you are.
Correct.
And so for one, let's get to how'd you get connected to Street Beefs? We'll start there.
Well, originally, before COVID times came, I had a world tournament that I was going to be a part of last year, like between September, October, but it got canceled due to COVID. So Memnon Warrior, he was a colleague of mine and a fight teammate, so to speak. We was working at the same gym because he trained he was coaching at the UFC at the moment. So he brought to my attention, he was fighting on this thing called Street Beefs. And I'm like, I'm not entertained about it. I don't know nothing about it. I got other events going on prior to that. So fast forward, when COVID came and they shut down a whole bunch of the big events, now I ain't had no fights. I'm doing a whole bunch of training. I'm like, let me see what's going on with Street Beefs now. So now I hit Memnon up and he told me about it. And we originally was supposed to go together. Some things happen, a little discrepancies in the moment, so he ended up not showing up. Now, my whole objective was to still be a part of it. So fast forward, got there. My first time was October 3rd, which that was my birthday originally and stuff. So I just wanted to see what it's like because I didn't want to fight. This is say proactive in a sense. So I didn't want to just sit because COVID happened and just sit on my butt or whatever. So I feel like to evaluate myself. In a yard where I don't know nobody, and you come from all different walks of life, so I feel like that was a different challenge for me. So I welcomed it.
And what was that like going to the yard for the very first time?
Oh, that was a definitely country field. I mean, everything that I've seen in movies, to see this live when it comes to Bang Time, Wolverine, Monsoon, and just seeing a whole bunch of animated characters that's in real life. But they're so impressionable about themselves. I was real standard and entertained at the same sense. So it was definitely an experience for me. But I got a better outlook of getting to know these guys outside of some of them antics that they carry and stuff as a person. I respect them, what they stand for. Like I definitely seen the integrity in their walk. And I can see how passionate you guys are. They just from a different area. So their understanding is different. But I feel like the destination is the same as mine.
Word. And so it also sounds like you had some fight experience beforehand, before you got to Street Beefs?
Yeah, I've been fighting on and off since 2003. So I've been boxing, Muay Thai, MMA, did Naga events, the jiu-jitsu tournaments, just to stay active and stuff for the most part. So that's basically what I was doing on and off before I ended up getting a job as a coach. I always had coaching experience anyway, but one of the biggest times I was getting a decent platform where I was able to actually effectively doing coaching. And my passion is mostly coaching over anything anyway. Fighting is more a recreation thing for me because I had my run 2003. Like, look where we at right now. So I ain't no spring chicken.
Yeah. And so let's actually get into even the origins of why you started to fight in the first place. I mean, when did you start getting that edge?
The first edge acquired to me were, I would say, originally probably in my preteens. So I used to get picked on as a kid from 6 to 13 years old. So believe it or not, I wasn't this big all my life. I used to get picked on. You know, I had 17 issues. It was too much to trying to acquire the difference between understanding the difference between a persona as well as a character. So I was caught between that and with a rough childhood and going through all of those things was a lot of issues. So fast forward, it grew to me learn how to defend myself and becoming a protector and a provider. Cause that's one of the first two jobs a man should have growing up. So I ended up getting that, and then I ended up getting welcome to a gym, and the rest was history from there.
And so, where'd you grow up? Right, because I heard you
Um,
said that you had a kind of a rough background. So,
Correct.
what was your childhood? Where'd you grow up? What
So,
was your environment like?
oh yeah, that was if you could think of the worst area that you could like a Iraq setting, but
Hmm.
Americanized in a sense. Like I grew up in a place where you don't have to be overweight to die overweight in a sense.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was definitely a different upbringing where when it came to the colors that you wore determined if you make it home or not. So it was real challenge for me. So going through the Chicago land as well as Indiana land was more of what I was in a cross between when it came to adapting and adjusting and still being intellectual and still being respected. Carrying myself as a man, but still make sure I'm conscious about what decisions I make. So
And so, it sounds like you're cross between Chicago and Indiana.
correct.
Okay. And so, did you grow up with both parents in the house, or what was that?
Well, I started out previously at the time I did with my dad, but then over time he went the other way and stuff because he had a whole bunch of mental issues within himself. So I ended up being growing up with my mom. So my mom was like the father of my in my childhood.
Yeah. And so, what was that like growing up without
Uh,
your father, with your mother?
it well, it played a pivotal role with me maturing when it comes to evaluating how to govern myself and how to still be in a make certain decisions that I feel like that spiral me into a better outlook in my life. So it was still challenging. It was challenging because a woman can teach you how to be an adult, but they can't teach you how to be a man. You know,
Hmm.
they just don't have that genetic components like that. They got the compassion aspect of how to move and this and that. They can teach you right from wrong, but it's the some way what we have versus what they have. Like we more testosterone, they more estrogen. So, that's a hit or miss. So it was
You
definitely
know,
a process.
no, I certainly agree with you on that. I mean, I grew up with my mother as well. My father wasn't in the picture, and so yeah, there's certain things that I think I cherish to this day that my mother was able to care for me. I mean, without her, I wouldn't be here, right? So
Correct.
just to name that flatly, but there are some things that were really difficult for her to teach me. Her being a woman and me being a man and trying to navigate this world because the world responds to us differently, right, through our gender, right, the way
Exactly.
that, and so certainly trying to traverse a tough environment, a difficult environment, um, I would imagine pose a number of challenges that your mother couldn't necessarily lead you through or guide you through those situations.
Exactly. It was definitely a trials and tribulations for me, but adversity builds character. So I took that mess and made a message out of it in a sense because I always find the outlook, the happy thing. When people meet me, my main phrase and people will talk to me, oh, how are you doing? I tell them every day is Christmas because that's a perspective. It's
Hmm.
not kind of like every day is a gift. It all depends on how you unwrap it. And I always focus on interacting as well as perpetuating that with anybody I come in contact with, because we so big, we're talking about the negative of this and that or whatever, and not being grateful for what we do have versus where we at. Like you think about a person in a military background or a person that was in prison that take away all the stuff that we take for granted, and you'll treat it like treasure the moment you get the opportunity again.
Yeah. And where did that kind of, that insight come from? Right. So what is, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead. Pardon my rudeness.
No, I was just going to say, like, because, that's a really important perspective to have, especially, I mean, some folks, there's a science behind that. Some folks already coined that, what they call growth mindset, this idea that in any situation, there is an opportunity to grow from it, to learn from it. That's where we get the idea. There's no L's. There's no losing. There's only learning.
And correct.
So where did you learn that from?
I can say this from, I had a lot of old heads around me. So a lot of old heads around me was basically history for me. So it's like watching people come and go was like, that was my school side of biology in a sense. So, understanding taking calculated risks, that in a sense, that was my business and law. So I had a nice plethora of individuals that adapted and adjusted and gave me a lot of wisdom. Like my homework, my downtime going on my mind was encyclopedias. Like I'm from that era, so that was my downtime. Picking up a book was my playground in a sense. So I've been through a whole bunch of when it came to that, where I seen from their secondary experiences of what they went through, what made a primary outlook for where I am in life. And then my mom being a hustler and a provider, and being a mom and trying to be a friend and trying to manage and handle so much of the things she going through as a life anyway, being a female, automatically a trial. So by me being a mama's boy, I was basically right beside her every step of the way. So I learned from her setbacks and a lot of OGs that was around me that helped me develop as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that is the road when you see a young person in any hood or any kind of community. I think role models play an important role to help shaping those young people. Because I even think about even my upbringing and thinking about all the people who were on the block who shaped me, right? They weren't in the home, like we weren't having constant conversations, but when they saw me, they made sure to give me some insight, some kind of wisdom. I remember this OG way back in the day when I was a kid. I remember he was like, well, how many books you reading, youngster? Right. And at that time, I wasn't really thinking about reading no books, but like every time I got around him or walking near his house, like he would always ask me that question. And so it at one point it started to sink in, like maybe I should start reading, right? Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's something to his question. And so I just think that it's pivotal and crucial to have kind of role models like that, whether they're fully engaged in your life, but even if they're on the periphery, they help shape you, who help give you some insight so that you can learn and grow.
Correct. I learned that. I'm my forward. You gonna say something? You like?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Because I grew up with that so much. Anything like I learned how to be more diplomatic, as well as assertive, and I can still be aggressive, but more my words and my insight. Because I feel like the better my argument was, the more debatable I make certain situations, the more I can minimize confusion. I look at things from more of a psychological as well as a sociology aspect and things. When I assess a situation, when I have within an individual, as an adult, a child, or peer, so to speak, I always process how to engage the conversation without demeaning the person. Or when I focus on we having a conversation, I want to focus on not coming off as if I'm minimizing their self-worth, so to speak, because a lot of individuals, we got these false sense of security, these bravados that comes around where they got to poke their chest out a certain way and be this type of stuff. And there's certain confusion that transpires from that. And a lot of times when things happen between individuals, the first thing a person says is, oh, I didn't know, I didn't think. But you didn't apply empathy. You didn't put yourself in their shoes. And it seemed like if the more times you acquire information, I've always been taught to be, so to speak, quick to hear. So people love to say and overlap and cut you off because they feel like they know so much. And a lot of people have tunnel vision, but if they have a more of an overview and assess of what the person going with the conversation and instead of processing the delivery of it, I feel like they make more progress. So I was taught that at an early age. So I was a wise man even as an adolescent.
Word. Love that. You're a wise man as a young man. And so what's also fascinating about your story, it is hard to really envision you being bullied.
Correct. If you would have known me because I was always the smart guy. So, you know, the smart guy always get bullied. If he didn't classify himself a certain way when he had a certain type, I didn't have the best clothes. So I had everything. What I had was hand me downs over everything. So I had hand me downs, other stuff. So dealing with that, and then growing up in a house that wasn't considered classified as for the upbringing, or you will see up in the Hamptons or anything. So I deal with that. And then by me not talking a certain jargon that most of my peers talk, I was always depicted as, oh, I'm a punk, or I'm this and that, because I don't talk about females in an objective fashion, or I don't talk about cars and clothes and stuff. I didn't know about that stuff. You would have came home to my environment. My challenges was my mom making it to the next day, or my brothers and stuff like that, not being compromised to the streets, or some of my uncles not being incarcerated serving life. So I'm dealing with all them issues, and I'm a kid. So I'm like I said, real life. It was this. I came to a situation where I had to deal with adult issues, and I don't even know who I was as a child. So those was way bigger that I was dealing with outside of me being distracted by people picking on me, so to speak. But then all that stuff changed, and I got a better outlook, and then I ended up maturing and getting my redemption, so to speak.
Word. I hear that. And so what was and so when you went into training, how far along with you were you in your journey? So were you a teenager that went into training, or were you a young adult?
Yeah, I was a young adult. I was barely 18 when I learned it and stuff. Because when I first got into it, I was adolescent, and when I was in high school, I got into a confrontation with a popular guy, so to speak. He was into sports. He got beside himself. And this around the time when I learned how to defend myself, learn how to fight, learn how to perform, engage. So now, you know, when you first learn how to fight and learn the little techniques, you kind of feeling like you're the Incredible Hulk, so to speak. I feel like I'm Colossal or something, or Juggernaut. So so now everybody know me as that I can fight pretty good. To leave me alone. Only thing light about me is my complexion. So be advised. So then it started to spiral, and this guy had an issue with me. Fast forward, and this one that fights that ended up changing my life forever. We haven't having words. It got physical. I hit him in his chin, and his chin clapped against his tongue automatically, so he fell off in contact. So I stumped him out at least over 20 some times. Now, literally, the damage was so bad, he had to have reconstructive surgery on his face 2 times. So, of course, I go to juvie, and they put me in a placement. And when I went to the placement, so to speak, I got a better outlook when it came to people really care for me as an individual, where I didn't have to get taught to look over my shoulder. And I learned how to express my emotion, because growing up, you know, they teach you as a man, you can't cry, you can't be emotional, it's a sign of weakness. And it was just so much of I can't express myself. If I do, that's a sign of weakness. So of course, and me blocking that out, that was a whole bunch of complexes that I had to deal with as an individual. So going to a placement, and I get a better sense of value and self worth, and I really understood more of why I established myself as a person, and stop focusing on the other individuals, and start really really cultivating who I am as a person. That's when I really got a better outlook on certain things. So when the education got even better for me, I wasn't distracted no more. I was able to get a better education and come back, and I got discharged, and I ended up getting a better view of things. So that it helped me really, really see. That's when I got into psychology in a sense. So psychology and sociology have been my best friends all this time. So that really shaped me even more of where I've been. And then when I seen when you have a lot of fester situation that transpire within yourself and become a volcano eruption within yourself, now I seen from that side that came from me not having an outlet. But then I learned and I grew from that.
Yeah, what was that like going into juvie? I mean, you went from being bullied to getting in a fight, and then now in juvie.
But growing up into in a rough environment, that was like my backyard. So it didn't really traumatize me. I'm disciplined. I'm well disciplined and very self-sufficient. So me being in an environment where they control this and that, I know how to govern myself. So, and I have a strong mindset, and even being picked on and stuff. A lot of people I know get picked on. I end up seeing them being hung, taking overdose on pills and all this stuff. It didn't do anything for me. It was just, I just didn't understand. I had a heart of gold. I helped people in the homework, gave candy, while people home, I did a whole bunch of community service. Why does it seem like I did be picked on because I don't act and I don't walk and I don't talk like how you do, so I'm depicted as an alien, sort of sense. But over time, being in that environment, I really seen how individuals are being stripped to where they at, how a lot of animalistic qualities a person have being behind those bars and stuff. So that was just another experience for me. Oh, hold on, I can't hear you. I don't know if the
Okay.
volume went up. Oh, there you go. We
Can you
back.
hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, we back.
And so when you got out of juvie, did you go back to your mother's home or were you put into a
Oh,
group home? How was that experience?
once I came back, I ended up getting my own locations because I was of age to really live on my own and stuff. So then I ended up basically getting into adulthood is really going through those responsibilities.
Okay. And so what was the first thing you did to kind of rebound from that experience as a young adult?
Nothing. Went into a trade school and then went to college, and because they already already attained my GED from there, and they already had me in a trade school, so I just ended up crossing over, came over here and finished up, and then I got drowned in school and stuff, and everything else worked from there.
And what was the trade?
When I first started, it was underground plumbing. And then underground, evaluated from underground plumbing. I tried electrician. I'm not a math head, so it was already a struggle me getting through underground plumbing. And then I tried a electrician, and then that kind of got shaky and stuff. So I went into carpentry for a short period of time, and then I transitioned after that, and then going into landscape, and then evolved into horticulture. So then I just kept this shaping who I was and get extending my background.
And then how'd you transition back to fighting or back
Um,
to training in gyms?
yeah, when I came out, I had a few associates that I that basically was involved in the same sports I was, and I mean that I was interested in. They brought it to my attention about because everybody know I'm a good fighter, I'm pretty fast. Hey man, you should try a gym. So I tried it, and my first few experiences there was real rough because when I was out there, I was kind of whooping everybody, but I kind of realized the talent it was a pool, not an ocean. So once I crossed back over on this side, I got a different challenge where I kind of found I wasn't as good as I thought I was. But it was the environment I was in that kind of really entertained the thoughts. So once I got into fighting out this way, I got a more of a different discipline and a higher standard. When the altitude was different, so it really made me take it seriously. Where I didn't really be selective with it or part time. I really treated it like it was my lifestyle.
And so what gyms were those? Are you still in one of those same gyms?
Yeah, nah, the gyms I started with, it was a few Chicago gyms that they had in the city. It was called Chicago Ace box that they had out there, and then I crossed over out here to Indiana called Gary Powell Police Athletic League, and that was more towards my mom area. So I ended up growing into that situation, and then I ended up crossing over to MMA a few years after that. I went to the gym called Hobart MMA, and then that moved on. Then I went to the gym called Hit Kickboxing. I was in Griffin, and it just kept going from there. But then I was more still on the side training people because I kind of noticed the stuff that I know versus what I initiate in fights be a third of it. But the stuff that I train people be about 100%. And we can both fight on the same card. A person that I train, and they have fight of the night, a knockout of the night, and I just have a victory. And you wouldn't even know, you wouldn't even put the two together. Like, you train him? You don't even do? I don't know. This when it comes to teaching, it's different for me.
Is that where you met Minam Warrior? Was it in one of those gyms?
Yeah, I met Memnon Warrior at the gym called Team Cologne at the time where he was training. But then I really met him. I really get more in contact with him once we start. It was a little bit after 2016 at the UFC gym in Maryville. I ended up meeting him over there, and we started talking and training together in between and stuff. So I started getting a better understanding of who he was as a person and stuff. So then we became teammates.
Yeah. I mean, let's just take a little sidebar with Minam Warrior. So let me ask, did you think he was going to be that good when you first met him?
Memnon Warrior is not that good to me. He's flashy and he's really his kicks are amazing. One thing I admire about him is his willpower. His skills, for some people, since I've been in the fight game, I don't see him as anything special. I see him as he can grow into something because only thing he missing is the ground game. I feel like he learned a lot because from when I first met him, I didn't even think when he told me he was a fighter, I'm like, sure you are. We all are. You know, we all are fighters in life. But as I've seen him mature, and he treat this sport like it's his second skin, and I really really see the maturity where he's at, and I can see him now. The moment he calmed down a little bit more, because he's still young too. I can see him definitely being something great though. I can see him being something great. As of right now, I see him he's like part and partial. I can see him on the brinks of getting great if he managed right, and I can also see he's a diamond in the rough. So that I mean that's my outlook on it.
And did you think he was gonna blow up the way he did on Street Beefs?
Yes. Now I see him. Now I seen that. That was kind of I can see that with a telescope. Like I definitely seen he was gonna blow up in Street Beefs because with his style, and he's a flashy showcase highlight reel, and so to speak. When he trained like that. Like I've seen this man done some stuff that people who've been in the game 10 years long with him that haven't even thought about doing. So he's definitely I mean when it comes, this is his craft. Now when I knew he was going to Street Beefs, I'm like, oh, he's gonna take over on that because I don't see nobody doing nothing with him at all because he's real creative. He's real creative. He got a lot of tools in the tool shed. So he's a home improvement when it comes to like Street Beefs. Like he's definitely a Tim Allen when it comes to that.
Yeah, and what were your thoughts when Anthony Pettis signed him and also Reckless Rico to his team?
I wasn't surprised because I don't know. You told me he went to the tryouts and thing, and I was really I was psyched for him as if I went to it because I'm like he got the opportunity though. I like about him being young, and this was Rico. I didn't know Rico that well, but I respected Rico too because I met him through Memnon. So seeing those two perform and train, and they build some nonchalant. Like Memnon is the ego, so to speak, and Rico did so nonchalant. He treated everything like every day. Like, oh, I got up this morning. Yeah, you got a good fight. Yeah, I got a fight coming on. Like he have a different mentality though. But they both work hard, and they both. If you've seen them behind the scenes, this is them 24/7. Who you seen on the screen, that's them 24/7. So when I found out they both got signed, that was definitely a great moment for me because I felt like when he won, I won. Just because we came from the same walks of life in a sense. Like they both struggle the same way, and to see them there and getting the opportunity, regardless of where they go after that, they already won the victory by even being a part of it. So I feel like that's a Mount Rushmore for them.
Yeah, certainly agree with that. Absolutely. So now that you experienced your first time in Street Beefs, had your first fight, how many? What is your record now?
In Street Beefs,
yeah,
7-0 in boxing and 1-0 in kickboxing.
Because it seemed like once you arrived, you were showing up everywhere. I mean, it seems like it slowed down a little bit now, but originally when you showed up, like it seemed like every month you were at every single event.
Correct. Fighting. I wanted to get as much as experience. I wanted to get comfortable with that environment because anything that I've done, I felt like it was kind of rocky for me because meeting the people, being in the environment, dealing with outside, dealing with the cage, the gravel and all this stuff, so to speak, that was a challenge for me. So when I ended up going to pound for pound, that was just because after a while it seemed like it was a shortage of fighters for me to fight at my caliber on Street Beefs, on the OG yard. So when I ended up going to pound for pound, I didn't want to see what they had to offer because everybody avoid going to them because how rough and rowdy they are. But I see them. I see like Walt Disneyland though. They didn't seem threatening to me, so I'm like, I want to go over there just because people avoid that environment. So I went over there, and once I had that experience with them, I originally supposed to fight 3 guys when I came there, and I know about the slip and slide or none of this stuff. So when I talked to Cornflake and he explained to me, oh, we got 3 guys for you, you're going to fight 3 people back to back. I'm like, all right. I originally supposed to fight some guy named Tiger, whatever his name is. I mean, what? No, not Tiger. It was, oh, man, I forgot the guy's name. But anyway, he fought Franco, so to speak. This original guy supposed to fight, but he couldn't fight me because something happened and they had to substitute some people for me and stuff. And once that kind of went left, he found some last minute people. Now, originally, I was supposed to fight all these guys 2 minutes each. Some people who watch these videos, I love when I read the comments and everybody say, "Oh man, the first guy, he gave him a fight. We went a minute." Of course, he gave me a fight. Anybody can produce themselves at a high magnitude for 30 to 45 seconds. You think that was impressive? But of course, people don't know because they're fans. You see the fight, you're not checking out the time. You're not evaluating how my pace did not change the whole fight. My pace went up, his pace went down. And then he quit or injury, whatever happened. I don't know. I don't care. I just know it was a minute. And everybody was like, oh man, he this and that. How do you gas out in a minute and you call him a tough challenge for me? He hit me 2-3 good shots. Whoop-de-doo. I'm light skinned. I didn't bruise. I didn't have a busted lip. Not one fight I've been in, I have any forms of marks on me. So it was, but in the slip and slide plays a big role. But of course, people were seeing is like, oh, he gave him a tough. If we was on a dry surface, I would have stopped him second round, period, point blank. Just because his crowd, his background made him seem like he was this King Tut in there. And I'm just like, I mean, he fought. One thing I can give it to him, he wasn't scared of me at all. And I respect that he stepped up last minute notice and, he gave me a fight. And then the King Mafia, I have nothing to say about him. I mean, he showed up and he didn't have to, so he stepped in. Then the third guy, I had a pep talk with him. He decided to go left instead of right, so that was that.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing all those fights. But yeah, man, it certainly seemed like you were starting to get busy, really starting to test yourself, and then you eventually won the belt. And so, what was that? What was that experience like?
Now, when I knew I was fighting Big D and I never heard of him and seeing a guy his weight mass and his height, I'm telling myself, I can't play with him. I can't go light on him because every other fight, literally, I go about 40, 50%. I don't feel the need to overexert myself because I feel like based on the caliber of fighting I have or the risk that I'm taking, based on how much I need to perform. If I feel like they threatening, I got to go 70%, then so be it. But other than that, my goal is safety over everything. A lot of people don't know that I got 2 jobs. I train, I mentor, I do volunteer work. I do all this other stuff on the side. And I make time for this stuff. But because I have so much of a fight IQ, I can jump in and fight whatever they needed, how many times they want to. Because I've been in tournaments where I fought 5 to 6 times, like in a 3-day span. So I'm used to being pushed at that rate. So like one of my shirts you've seen, the more you sweat, the less you bleed. Like cardio is king in my world. So I'm not worried about nobody really outworking me. And I'm saying there's not nobody that can't outwork me and stuff. I mean, as of right now, how bad that I want to perform and continue to be that elite, I can't allow it. But D, he was definitely in mine because I see he was 5-0 as well, even though I know he didn't have that much skill factor, but I know he hit like a ton of bricks from some of the fights I've seen. I know he didn't have a cardio, but I was out in my mind. I know by me fighting a champion, you got to beat the champion. Because if I just do just enough, they're going to give it to him. So I wanted to make sure I put out all stops and perform at my best. So when I won, it was like a stepping stone for me. It was like, oh, okay, I got another belt or whatever. So.
And that's the super heavyweight belt. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And so when you think about all the challenges that you've had at Street Beefs, who was probably the toughest challenger that you met in the cage?
The toughest challenger, I would say the toughest challenger, I would say maybe if Fair Play, I'll give recognition to Fair Play. Fair Play fought hard, even though I treat it like a sparring match. Fair Play put 130% in. I feel like if he had a little bit more skill and a little bit more weight, it would have been. I would have to fight him a little bit harder. I felt Fair Play was first when it came like my most challenging because the fact that he was fighting me like he was gonna try to knock me out. I'm like, bro, I'm way bigger than you. I got a lot more skills than you. What are you doing? But I mean, he didn't come. He didn't come to play. And I feel like Predator, which is my first fight, he was more skilled, even though it didn't look like it. I mean, he got about 16 fights on his belt and 2 belts from doing MMA and kickboxing and boxing. So he had a lot more skills when it comes to. I knew I was fighting a guy with a background, even though that's why I rushed him and his bull rushed him because he had a lot of power. Like even though he didn't look like it when he hit me, I seen spots. So I'm like, I gotta pressure him. I gotta break his body down because if I don't, and I don't know how much cardio he got. this might end up being a tough fight for me. But yeah, so I put Fair Play first. If he had a little bit more weight, he probably would have been like my biggest war, probably, because the fact that he had no quit in him. And I'll give Predator second as far as the willpower.
Yeah, certainly. When I looked at that match between you and Fair Play, I was like, whoa, there's like a huge weight disparity there. So I was surprised that they even made that match. But kudos to Fair Play because he took up the match, right?
He did.
Yeah.
He's another guy I talk to, I correspond with, because I look at him as like he's a student of the game, and I respect. We both got similar backgrounds on different spectrums and stuff, and I definitely can see that he's definitely being a sponge and not a rock when it comes to this fight game. And I respect him as a person because the fact that he had to take the fight, even when I talked to him before, even after the fact, I'm like, I was doing my best not to overdo it because, like I said, I came from a real fight background, and Fair Play has as well. But I wasn't taught to overkill this guy because if I overkill him, it's gonna be, or would you beat him or ruck the rook because you was bigger than him. He's not a boxer; he's an MMA fighter. It's always something. If I beat you, it's like a Mayweather. Everybody have. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Mayweather. I'm just using this analogy. When Mayweather beat anybody, he beat. Oh, it's gonna be the toughest test for Mayweather. He beat him, or he beat him because he was a trainer, or he did this, or he had a bad arm, he had a bad leg when he beat Pacquiao, he had a bad shoulder. It was always something. Not the fact to give him his credit, he won. All them excuses go out the window. Now he go find another. It's always gonna be somebody else. Oh, fight this guy, fight this guy, fight this guy. He's not a clown. That's why he one of the most successful people in the game because he treated it like a business, and he definitely established himself as one of the greats by picking it. Yeah, everybody call it cherry picking, but that's the game though. You don't focus on you don't want to be like an Toro guy. He was most exciting, but underpaid, tissue, face damage and everything. And what do you got to show for it? If you want to grow in this game, you want to grow by being careful who you fight because you're a brand. If you're going to put yourself in a certain form of establishment, you got to make the right decisions. You got to pick the right time to fight a guy. Some guys South makes fights. Don't risk it because at the end of the day, you might be right where you need to be. And then that one fight, because you took too many, and it's in there, and now you find yourself climbing right back up the mountain instead of where you was at already to begin with.
Yeah, those are really good pointers, really good insight. When I had it, Scarface and I had an interview with Ken Shamrock, and he was saying very similar things, right? He was saying it's important to, one, sell yourself, build your brand as a fighter, but two, be calculated on the way you move.
Exactly.
And so it makes a whole lot of sense. And so also understand, I've seen some video of you also fighting in another fight club, and I think you're a champion there as well. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Peoria Fight Club. Yeah, I fought in there. I'm not the champion there no more. I fought the guy. I gave him a rematch again. And it's a whole bunch of stuff. I don't want to badmouth them because I'm doing my best to be a credible individual. But the fight, it was a whole bunch of things behind the scenes that was going on that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth where it was you got to see it to really understand and get more of where it derived from and stuff. But I was the champion there, and it was a good start. Like I said, it's a good organization, but it was a few things that took place from a political standpoint that kind of separated who I am as a person and stuff. So I choose to separate myself from that organization. But yeah, it was a good run from over there. So
yeah, I think the point that I was bringing up is that you've just been busy. You've been putting in a lot of work, claiming belts, and so with that, right, you get all these belts. What is your future plans in Street Beefs? Is it just to continue to kind of defend the belt, or is there something greater down the line?
I like to fight people based on talent, and when I see somebody that's kind of worth it, like up to par, like I'll keep my eye on like two people that will hopefully, if they come out and be active enough, because I like to beat people at their best. I want to be the first person to beat you. I don't want to be the second or the third. I want to make sure this is the person that everyone's like, oh, nobody can beat him, and then I beat him, and then and leave it at that. I just like to the moment where you feel like you get it, I don't want to show you that you don't, because it levels to this fight game. So I'll defend it if I meet a champion in the boxing realm that's up to par, I'll get him a shot. But if I don't feel like they're worth it, or they might gas out, or they might not be charging enough for him. I can waste my time because I'm not just finna just come out. That's a long way. 12 to 14 hours coming out there. That's a drive, and I drive. Don't take no plane. So that's a big deal. So I want to make sure I want to come out there. I want to at least make it worth it. Like when I fought Ryu, the last fight, the kickboxing fight, that wasn't more of a it started out as a joke, so to speak. We seen how he was talking he won the kickboxing match, and I was just being funny. I'm like, yeah, I'll fight you, thinking he wasn't gonna take it. And he like, oh yeah, I know who you are, whatever, I'll fight you. And I was like, so you want to set it up? And he like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my. I took my head out to him just because the mental fortitude he had, and whether it's for experience, the way he thought he was gonna beat me, regardless. That was I always wanted to do an MMA fight. When I first came into the Street Beefs yard, since we were talking about it, the first two people that offered the fight was Country Hoodlum. That was the first guy. Memnon Warrior, quote me on this. Country Hoodlum was the first guy I put the fight. Now, I don't know what happened with that situation. I don't know if he got sick or whatever. Then it came to a weight situation. I'm assuming this is what was brought to my attention. So they originally had me fighting him. That didn't go well. So then I offered the fight. Then they had Warlord because they said I was too big for Country Hoodlum, even though if you see Country Hoodlum in Rough and Rowdy, he's 245 pounds. But moving on, that's another subject. They had Warlord was super heavyweight, so I put to fight him for a belt. That didn't go well either. He got sick. He caught COVID, whatever. They ended up changing hands. Big Smiles came around. Big Smiles started fighting. And then Big Smiles ended up having a fight. He ended up claiming the belt, which it wasn't a big deal. And I ain't had no issues with Big Smiles, all the power to him. I just cared about fighting the people that everybody said was most avoided. Everybody kept talking about Country Hoodlum. This one Memnon Warrior brought to my attention. I'll fight Country Hoodlum. I'll fight Gorilla. And Gorilla's like my guy, so I'm not going to ever fight him. And then by me having a good bond with Bangtan, I would never fight Gorilla. Just because of the loyalty thing. That is how I am, man. Yeah. So it's really supposed to be Country Hoodlum and Warlord. Whatever happened with Country Hoodlum, I don't know. And then Warlord, he mysteriously caught COVID. Breaking news. So
yeah, I will say, I mean, when you speak to a lot of people, they will say Country Hoodlum is probably the most feared fighter. I mean, besides you. So I think there's a few people who I think folks are afraid to fight, and you're one of them, but also Country Hoodlum is one of them. And so it's interesting that there was already plans to put y'all to fight each other. It just didn't work out. But man, that would have been a banger and a classic. Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, I was looking. I'm looking for hopefully because I know the weight class that he fight at, that's not his weight. If you see when he fought Tyree looked like he was 205. Country Hoodlum did not. But once again, I don't run that organization. I'm just a part of it. So hopefully down the way, when next time he fight at his true weight, and if he have the part and stuff like that, we're gonna see where he at. But I don't see nothing dangerous about. I can give it to him. He puts in work. Like when I see him, I watch him fight. I respect him though, because when I watch his fights, I be like, woo. His biggest challenge was Tyree though, and
yeah,
if Tyree would have, that was debatable. And cardio was not his best friend that day. But that's another story.
Yeah, it was also a lot of mud too. I think the conditions weren't fully right there as well. So I mean, it was definitely a really good scrap. Yeah. Wow, that would have been interesting. But yeah, like it is sort of confusing in terms of the weight classes at the OGR because it seems like people are separated by a few pounds. Multiple belts. Yeah, and there's like multiple belts. And so whenever we put together the debates that we've had in the past around like the top 5 heavyweights, it was, even with the fighters.
I'm glad you brought that up.
So yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. And so, we'll talk about it just right now. So I think the hard part was trying to decipher, is he a heavyweight? Is he a light heavyweight? Because there was only like a few pounds differential between him and all the other fighters around him. So it was kind of confusing. And then when you look at the Rough and Rowdy, I can't think of, is that what it's called? Rough and Rowdy?
Yes, Rough and Rowdy. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so when you look at him fighting there, he's a heavyweight. And so it was really difficult to kind of categorize where he belonged, whether he was a light heavyweight or a heavyweight. And so I definitely understand that, because we were going back and forth between the fighters and the panelists around like, how do you classify him? And so it would have been interesting had y'all actually did fight. And hopefully, I mean, that is still in the plans in the future, but we'll see.
Right.
And so let's talk about the top 5 debate.
You know
the top 5 heavyweight debate. So what were your thoughts?
I was a real offended by some of those individuals, but due to the people of the caliber that was speaking on it, I wasn't too surprised though, because they sound like more like fans than commentators. So I don't feel like they had enough history when it comes to, if you're gonna assess a fighter. I get it. I heard the things that only fought guys at 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. Cornflake, you know how to look through his fights. The guys he struggled with 2-0, 1-0, 3-0. He fought the same similar guys. The guy who he fought was Hulk Smash or whatever his name was. Did you see his record? Did you see how terrible he fought? Both of them fought terrible, so to speak. Cornflake wrecked him and, I mean, did what he was supposed to do. But to rank him as number 1, only reason I probably figured like they cranked him number 1 because, you know, the way he come around and, you know, where he's from and how rough he fight. Because, I mean, he trying to kill you. Like, every punch is he throwing 100 miles an hour. But skill-wise, I was a real offended by that. I felt like Gorilla should have got it because Gorilla's the most active. He was most dynamic. I mean, Gorilla was only fighting 2 years and he got that many fights. Yeah, he had a tough fight with Cornflake, but if you notice, Cornflake was the only person that couldn't stop him. And you know, he was so much of a monster, but he couldn't stop Gorilla. Why is that? Then he fought the second time, and I don't know how that fight went. I don't know if the injury was real or fake. Moving on. That was kind of sketchy, but once again, I'm just a fighter. I wasn't there. I can't really tell how the things went. But I feel like Gorilla should have got that spot. I feel like Cornflake should have got top 3, but not number 1 though. I feel like Gorilla should have that because who he fought, everybody come hard on him about who he fought. He can't pick who he fight. He shows up. If that guy steps up, that's who he fighting. I love that people in the fan background they only fought these type of guys. These are the guys who stepped up. Gorilla's one of the most feared guys there as well. And they always pick around. He can't pick. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I try to highlight in the debate was that, hey, when I looked at all the rankings, right, because, you know, oftentimes this is the process. The process is we kind of get fillers out there, ask fighters who we think are knowledgeable about fighting or just been around, like at least know, because what happens is that we'll have high skill fighters, but they don't know street beefs. They don't know any of the fighters but themselves. And so, you know, we've gotten that where we invited folks and they're like, you know what, I actually don't pay attention to the other branches, so I couldn't even give you a fair assessment. And so we got folks who had kind of a range of knowledge around street beefs. They monitor all the branches. They know people are. And so we start to collect a list and say, okay, who are your top 5? And so when they start to give them our list, I noticed that Gorilla was not in any of the list, right? Knowing his record too, right? So knowing that he has fought 20 something times. And so that's why I want to highlight in the debate was like, hey, you are missing this person. I wonder why. Like, was this just, was this a mistake on your part, or was there a particular reason why you didn't want to put this person in the top 5? But I agree with you. I think Gorilla should have been on there. I mean, now he's a champion. But what do you think about your placement, right? You were number 5.
Yeah, that was cute. I was like, we need some Teddy Atlas analysts on here because I'm like, everybody that they can put outside of Gorilla, I'll run over. It's easy. So, I mean, literally, if I fight 70%, I'll stop them. I'll stop them by the cold with a bad hand. So I was real offended, but once again, I've been fighting, you know, and because maybe my style not appealing to a lot of people, it's a preference, you know, and I noticed that, and that's okay. I accepted. I found it entertaining because I was like, whoa, but I was more offended by Gorilla not being part of it, let alone where they ranked me. I was like, down here, who any fought guys? I'm like, if we're gonna talk about statistics, we gotta research the guys that they fought as well, because once again, some of them guys, I don't know. Maybe it was the timing, because you know when Cornflake was fighting, Streetbeefs was popular, but it wasn't that many dominant heavyweights at that time. So I feel like the Good Time fan, where he got the million views and stuff, and that make him a household name, and I respect that. But to have him as if he's this monster, I'm like, and one thing I do respect though, it was a sad note where somebody asked Baby Hulk because I offered to fight Cornflake because he told me he'll fight me in March, whatever, and I put it out there. We put the poll up or whatever for us to fight. Something ended up happening. Nothing ended up happening. They asked Baby Hulk who will win between Beast and Cornflake, and he kept it real because he's a fighter and he knows the fight game. I don't even know Baby Hulk, but he know experience wise and he kept it real and he said I'll win, and I respected that more than anything. Not because it's Baby Hulk, it's the simple fact that he wasn't biased because Cornflake is guy, but I just feel like a person should keep it more neutral and not leave more of that personal aspect. Keep it generalized. If we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna talk about stats. We're gonna compare and contrast everything. It don't just kid to be who I like or who seem to be more popular. We're going on substance.
And so, if you were to name your top 5 heavyweights, what would that would have been? What would the list end up?
I don't really know that many heavyweights, but Gorilla definitely be number one. I feel like I'll be number 2. Just from activity wise, Gorilla fought way more than me. I mean, he fought some of everybody twice, all back around. I feel like Cornflake be number 3. I don't really know no other 2 dominate heavyweights. That's kind of. I'll put. Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not even.
Yeah, because it was Big Smiles, Shinigami.
Oh, yeah. I'll put Smiles on there because he had a decent run. Okay, so we'll do this. I'll put Shimigami is popular, as in he was at the right time, ESPN moment, so that's why he's the face. I mean, what he did to Smiles, I feel like Smiles should have wrecked him, but once again, we didn't give him enough credit. I thought he was just a flashy kicker. He showed he had a little bit more than that, and that was I respect. He earned my respect that time because I didn't respect him. I just seen him as a guy with a silly outfit on. He fought in the right area, and then ESPN picked him up, so he became the face of Streetbeefs. You thought about Streetbeefs, you knew Shimigami, like period, point blank. So I feel like, yeah, a Gorilla will put Shimigami above me because he's more popular. I mean, he's a household name. And I'll be behind him. I feel like Cornflake and Big Smiles. But yeah, but that'll probably change. But as of right now, that's me off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's still a good list. I think folks are also, I think they were also questioning some of the other heavyweights in terms of, because that's also the difficult part of assessing any heavyweight is assessing their opponents.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, and so like there is no list. Like when folks sign up to fight, like you don't know who you're fighting, you don't know their skill set, and so oftentimes when I see Gorilla fighting, like it appears that he's fighting a nobody.
Correct.
And it isn't until Gorilla says like, "Hey, actually, this fighter has MMA experience, or they have boxing experience." Like I didn't realize his last opponent had a lot of MMA.
Pro.
Yeah, he was a pro. Yeah, exactly. I didn't realize he was that until he said it, and then at some point I saw it on YouTube. I don't know if a Gorilla pointed it out or someone was like, "Hey, look at the past opponent's fights," and I remember looking, I'm like, "Oh yeah, he was a pro," right? And so it's hard to judge fighters because of the kind of the unknowns of their opponents. And so I think it's a tough position, period, for any panelist. But I think folks naturally want to kind of categorize the top 5 fighters, I think, in every single class because they want to know who are the top dogs. And certainly, I think if you put a poll across, I think any weight class, if you say who are the top dogs regardless of weight, I certainly think that you will be on near the top.
All right. I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. I think your name is fitting, right? Beast. And so how'd you actually come up with that name? Was that something that was given to you or something that you just chose?
Believe it or not, I was going to have the name, pardon my rudeness or interrupting you.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I had a person, I originally was going to use Midwest Beast. But I was talking to Memnon Warrior about it. He like, "Oh, make it Beast," because he's more of the generational or what seemed more exciting. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll run with Beast. So that was more of a last minute talking to Memnon about it. And I'm going to do Midwest Beast. And he promoted me for coming out there when we originally was going to fight Country Hoodlum. And They like, man, take the Midwest off. I mean, I feel like it'd be better because I represent the Midwest. I'm this, but he like, they leave it as Beast. I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna run with Beast. So that's kind of how that came about.
Awesome. And so I know that you like coaching. I know you like mentorship. I mean, is there anything you're particularly involved in, or why do you do it? Like, what is the value that it adds to you?
Well, that's one of my biggest rewards because, trophies and belts and all that stuff, I look at all that stuff as ice sculptures and sandcastles. They only last for a moment. But to really generate somebody's potential or uplifting somebody in a certain space, that's like a big reward for me. This is some effect of being a champion is one, but building another one, that's kind of like submitting somebody's legacy in a sense of taking somebody in this one aspect and putting them in a different area and channeling their potential and helping them rise to the occasion. I feel like that's a big benefit. I consider myself a teacher, so I love to plant mustard seeds and water people's gardens, and so to speak, because I feel like a lot of people just need those mentors, not the role models, because they have sports people as far as basketball players as role models, but those are not the ones that you'll see day in and day out that's behind the camera. Like, I respect more the volunteers, the people that don't shine around the cameras. I mean, they just do stuff religiously because they want to see you make it, not because of how you look or the color that you are. They're because they understand where you came from. They want to help you get to where you're going. So that's one of the things that I focus on corresponding with and really shine upon and propagating that as much as possible. So that's my reward. I'm excited. I don't get excited about fights. I get excited off of somebody graduating or somebody staying out of jail or somebody getting into a better position financially or somebody open up a gym, so to speak, or whatever the case, and whatever their goals or aspirations are. That's my biggest gratification.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. And so if folks wanted to be trained by you, is there a gym that they can go to sign up for that?
It's as far as it's Indiana. It's you can Google it. So it's UFC gym in Maryville. That's basically where I mainly coach at.
Awesome. And so what does the future lie ahead of you? Are you just going to wait until there's an opponent?
Well, I'm on the side. I'm going to do Naga events. I'm going to jump into powerlifting and do a few little more Muay Thai events and stuff. And if somebody come back around Streetbeefs or any other underground yards and stuff, I just like go around this takeover. I believe in hostile takeover, so I believe in this saying home invasion. So once I come, it's the takeover season for me or any sport I'm in. So I'm just doing this up for recreation. This is fun to me. It's not really alone. I'm not a spring chicken, so I'm not focusing on being on this platform. It's like that. I just like to be the fact that I'm part of anything and love beating the people up that's like in their mid-20s and they train so hard. This is their only job, and I work so much that they know that I do a third of what they do, and I perform 100% better, do something to their self-esteem. So that's good enough for me.
Word. So where can folks reach you to contact you? Are you on social media?
I don't do that social media. No, because we got too many people talk slick. You say something crazy to me, I'm gonna pull up. So I leave social media. I'm not mentally disciplined enough to be in social media because comments I'll be on it all day. He said this about me. He said this about me. I know to separate myself from a compromising situation that taking on my character. So I leave social media alone all the way through. I talk through third parties and I'll leave it at that because that's where I need to be. It's safe for me, and I can stay out of trouble that way.
Word. So if you want to reach Beast, make sure you go to an event or you go to his gym.
There you go.
Well, I appreciate the time, brother. It was great to learn about your story and what you continue to do, man. You are, as your name says, you are a beast. A lot of folks will agree with me. And so I just appreciate the time and just continue the work that you're doing. And even every single fight, I know that you're just pulling out like old tricks that you've done for many, many years, but it seems like you're evolving. Like the kickboxing match to me was like really impressive. And for you, you're probably like, I've been doing that.
Correct.
But it just seems like every fight pulls things out that we get to see that feels new as fans, as viewers. And so I love watching you fight because of those new things that kind of get revealed to us. And so I just appreciate that you continue to show love and continue to fight and even teach us as we're watching you fight.
All right. Okay.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for coming on, man. If you like what you heard, like what you saw, please subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you were able to gather some gems from the interview with the Beast. I mean, he definitely dropped a lot of gems here, especially when we track him from a very young person to who he is now and all the experiences he was able to accumulate over time. He dropped so much insight. And so that is the purpose of these profiles, is to learn from the fighters, adopt some of their mindsets, adopt some of the practices. So not only can you fight in the arena or fight in the cage or fight in the ring, but you can employ these practices to fight in your life so that you can get and access better outcomes. So with that, I always appreciate all the support. And if you want to give to this platform, you can go to our Patreon page and donate. There's a monthly subscription. You can donate so that we can continue to do this work, continue to profile people, but also support a lot of the live shows that we have. And that, that's Wedo and the Mexican. We also have Show and Improve, which is Tunde and Now, the Canadian. And we also have the newly added podcast, and that is The Most Undisputed, and that's with Venom Black and Gorilla from the East Coast. Support, donate, show us some love, y'all. Show us some love, right? By making a monetary donation to the platform. And to the next time we see you, to the next time we drop our next content, make sure, let me say that again, make sure you dig deep and double down on your own commitments to your life.